It is my pleasure to welcome you all to today's webinar, Beyond the Hype, Building AI-Ready Classrooms that Prioritize Human Creativity. My name is Shifao Lawal, and I am privileged to be serving as your moderator today. So this webinar is proudly hosted by Wuraisgold Charity Foundation in collaboration with Althaven. So to move on quickly, let's see. Let's have a quick icebreaker. Yeah. So think about artificial intelligence, right? What is one word that comes to your mind when you think about AI? When you say, oh, somebody mentions artificial intelligence, what is one? Drop it in the chat as well. I am 100 with you guys today. Let's see. Oh, Mildred says rush work made easy. Well, when you think about it, it actually makes work easy, but that is if you're not depending on it too much. Faith says fast speed technology, creativity. Faith also says innovation. Of course, AI is this massive innovation. Oh my God. Victoria says she thinks the government is spying on us and selling our data through AI. Oh my God. Okay, Victoria, okay. Lucy says AI is diverse, innovative, and makes work easier. That's true, actually. Reducing the loads of human complex work. That is actually true. So if you're using AI to make your work easier, I think, and not depending on your work for you, then I feel like you're making the right use of AI. So thank you so much. And so I'll be introducing our first speaker, Mrs. Blessing Iyare. So Mrs. Blessing Iyare is an EdTech consultant. She is passionate about education and technology. She has over a decade of experience driving learning, innovation, and capacity development. She is a Google Women Tech Makers Ambassador that advocates for technology in education. Our expertise spans around educational consulting, program management, instructional design, data analytics, STEM education, and digital skills development. Oh my God, I am so inspired just reading this. She holds a master's degree in educational technology, committed to harnessing AI and digital tools for sustainable impact across Africa. Oh my God, Mrs. Blessing, you inspire me. I mean, this is amazing. Join me in warmly welcoming Mrs. Blessing Iyare. Please and please and please let us all clap our hands for Mrs. Blessing Iyare. So the floor is yours, ma'am. Please.
Okay, thank you so much. I am super excited to be here. We're going to be having a discussion time. So please take out your writing pen, use the chat box as much as possible because we're going to be discussing among each other. We're going to be discussing the chat. Do we have educators in the house? Do we have medical
So we
practitioners?
have, of course, we have Mr. James, who is a teacher. We have Miss Joy, a nurse. We have
Okay.
students in the house as well. So
Okay.
I'm looking forward to more people dropping their chats. Let us know. Are you a teacher? Are you students? Let us know. Let us know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So please let's use the chat box. So I'll get right in because classroom that strengthens learner agency. Now don't mind all this big grammar as it seems. It's something that we already know, and then we're going to be having honest conversations. So why trying to use AI? What do we really use AI for? So in the chat, I used to be a teacher, so I want this class to be as interactive as possible. So in the chat, I would like you to use if AI can answer almost any question in second, what should students still learn from us? What do you think? If AI can answer every question, do you think there's any need for a teacher or an educator or someone to facilitate learning? I want you to put your ideas in the chat. Yes, I want you to put them in that. I would love to see the AI tool you've used. Possibly, I'm going to get one or two that I've not used that I'll start using. Here, you can see ChatGPT and Cloud AI, right? So now let's go back into the classroom. You would agree with me that if you started teaching like way back, you know that right now, learning as an educator, that's what we're going to be looking at today. So your place in the classroom has not been removed by AI, but rather you have to work with AI to ensure that learning takes place. So let's get right into it. Now, what does an AI ready classroom look like? When we talk about your classroom is AI ready, what do we mean? And this is something, especially for us in Nigeria, in Africa, we need to be on our game, because in the Western world, you would agree with me that this is already happening in the classroom. So we need to embrace this. So AI is supposed to be a co-pilot, not the pilot. So it's supposed to be your buddy, like somebody you work together with, not the, should I use the word, not the organ of the class, but he should be working with you. Now, let's look at these four characteristics of what your classroom should look like. So you should be self-evaluating yourself. Now, when I say classroom, we have the medical practitioners in the house. It's possible you have like group of people that you also manage. It could also work with you, right? So if you're an educator, this can work. Whatever the sphere of your career, this can also work. So AI should be able to support your learning. AI should be able to support your learning. It should enhance and support learning process. It does not replace critical thinking or student effort. Very important. You need to be able to think critically. I usually tell students and everyone around me, if I give an assignment and you just take it to AI and just say, okay, let's say what is chemistry, and you put it on AI, and every other student in the class, let's say about 20 of them, also put it into AI, you guys are going to most likely get the same result. What makes the difference is the process. Did you critically think? How do you prompt your AI better? And we're going to be looking at that as we proceed. The next is teachers are learning designers. So teachers, you're supposed to just, there's a shift from like content deliverer to designers of meaningful, inquiry driven learning experiences. So it's not just garbage in, garbage out. You need to be able to understand the process. So for instance, in this age and time, if you give your student assignment, you should not just wait to see the end product. What was the process? How did this child think through it? So it should not just be written. The child should be able to, or whoever is working, should be able to verbally walk you through the process. Okay, so I thought about this and I thought about this and I used AI to do this. So you encourage the use of AI, but they should be able to think through it. So as a teacher, you're a learning designer, not just a content deliverer. Now, students ask better question. That's what an AI ready class look like. They'll be able to ask better questions. They can think. They don't let AI think for themselves, for them alone. So they can think. What they use AI to do is to fine tune their thoughts. Now, students deliver the skill to craft thoughtful prompts and evaluate AI responses with curiosity and depth. So it is not la cram la pour or la collect la pour like that. No, you'll be able to actually go through it and ensure that there's like critical thinking and you'll be able to understand what you're actually pouring out. Now, for this AI ready classroom, collaboration is encouraged. Students and teachers work alongside AI tools, building shared understanding and co-creating knowledge. So it's not something that, oh, as a teacher, you're feeling, I am the alpha and the omega of this class. I should know it all. No, it's a collaborative classroom. Like we established previously, you can also learn from your students. Now, let's move forward. We talked about learner agency. When we say learner agency, what are we talking about? When we talk about learner agency, we're talking about someone who so when we talk about the crypto creative learner, for instance, let me break that before we go deeply into the type of learner agency. When we talk about the crypto critical creative learner, is someone who leverage AI to solve real problems without slipping into algorithmic ductility. Now, just forget about all this grammar. I will break it down. So I'd already given an example of algorithmic ductility. So for instance, you have somebody who just goes to the internet, go to ChatGPT, open ChatGPT, and browse something and just copy everything and paste for you as the answer. without going through it, without critically thinking about it. What is it that I am supposed to get out of this thing? What AI is giving me, is it even correct? Now, if you've used AI a lot, you will notice that sometimes it tells you, I'm not 100% correct, please verify. I use ChatGPT, I use Claude AI. Guess what? A lot of time they give me wrong answer. And then when I go and say, ChatGPT, this thing is wrong, to say, sorry, blessing, and then to now give me the correct. And sometimes over like 2-3 times, I keep telling it, it's wrong, verify, give me the source before it gives me the correct answer. So imagine I am that student that just do garbage in, garbage out. What happens? This will be happening to me. There will be this docile nation where I just get it, and that's not what you want from your students. So we should be able to coach our students, teach our students to be critical thinkers, not just get something from the internet, get something from AI and just dump it to the world. Now, when we talk about the learner agency, we're going to be seeing the two types. And then as an educator, you're going to be deciding which part do you want to belong to. I know I've asked a couple of questions. Do we have any comments that you'd like to share? I love an interactive class.
So when you asked what type of AI people use, so there's a comment in the chat that says Gemini. I think that
Beautiful. So yes, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, Gemini is one of the very good AI that you can also explore. I use that sometimes also. So now when we talk about the learner agency, it helps you make better choices, solve problems, to be able to reflect, create, and take ownership of learning. Now, students drive their own learning. Choices lead to what? Deeper thinking, purpose, well engagement. And these are the things that we've been talking about. Now, agency is not just working alone. Agency is equal to what? Learning with what? Purpose. So you're not just taking garbage in, garbage out, but you're learning with purpose. You're ensuring that there's critical thinking along the way as you use AI. I talked about that we have two types of the learning agency that we're going to look at. We have when it is very low and then when it is high. So I want you to evaluate yourself as we're having this class, right? Evaluate yourself. What kind of agency do you have in your class right now that's being used? Is it a low agency classroom or it's high? Now, when we say it's low, it's, for instance, you just copy answers directly. And this might not even be in your classroom, it might be to yourself too. So you should be evaluating yourself, especially for those who maybe are not teachers. Evaluate yourself. Is your agency, is it low or is it high? Do you just copy AI answer directly? Or you ask simple surface level prompts, just go and say, okay, just do this for me. And you don't prompt it very well, right? Or you just memorize without understanding. Yeah, I've seen this happen a lot, especially when you're trying to be very fast. Just go, just pack all the garbage that you've gotten from AI and you don't even understand the terms that is being used and you just push it, right? So you have to be able to evaluate for high agency classroom. So if you're saying that your classroom is high, you should be able to evaluate and critique AI response. You should be able to tell AI, why did you give me this response? Why do you think, I don't think this is correct? And then you and AI would have that conversation to conclude on a better answer. You should be able to also design better and deeper prompts. Very important. This session, we don't have a lot of time, but this is something you should look out for. Learning prompt engineering. How do I do better prompts? Because if you don't know how to give better prompts, you get surface answers. It's your prompts that differentiates your response from someone else that is also using the same chat, let's say AI chatbot. Now, you should also be able to apply knowledge to real problems. Very important. Apply the knowledge to real problem. And that's one of the issues with AI that we're having these days. And we're pushing that we have more persons designing AI for Africa that will be used by Africans, right? Because most of this AI that we use here, like from Silicon Valley and the rest, and they're not really fitting into our context. Do you get? So it's very important to be able to apply whatever knowledge you get into real problems. Now, these are just self-reflection questions for you. Which classroom do you want? You've already been able to identify the kind of classroom that you have. Which classroom do you want? So put it in the chat. I don't want you to drop your phone and go and be cooking. So yes, put it in the chat so I know that you're following. What kind of classroom do you want? Do you want a collaborative classroom with AI as your thinking partner? Or do you want to take ownership of your own learning? Or do you want to depend on AI to think for you? Or you want to just be a passive consumer of AI output? So I want you to put that in the chat box. What kind of classroom or what kind of agency do you want? Put it down in the chat. Now, we said that we are in a different era. So as we're in a different era, as teachers, as educators, we have our role to play. Now, you're not just a content creator or content deliverer, like we mentioned. Now you are a guide, you're a coach, you're a facilitator, you're a learning experience designer. So you should keep these 4 things handy. You're a guide. Now, when we say you're a guide, what do we mean? You support students, exploration, and curiosity. Make sure that your class, your students are curious. They want to explore, right? You're a coach. You build skills, confidence, and resilience. Don't just say, oh, don't use AI or something. You need to build their skill. Okay, you're using AI. You need to critically think. You need to be confident in yourself. AI does not know it all. You need to also ask him questions. You cannot just, some students, you tell them, okay, how did you do this? They'll say it's AI. No, you should be able to stand and be confident and defend the answer and say, okay, this is it. And this was where I used AI. Also, as a teacher, you need to be a facilitator. You need to be able to orchestrate collaboration and dialogue, right? Collaboration and dialogue, very important. Also, learning experience designer. You should be able to design the learning experience. Craft purposeful AI integrated lesson. That will be very interactive, right? So if you're here and you're not using AI, you need to work alongside with AI as your what? Your co-facilitator. Very important. And teach your students how to use AI properly. That's the role of the new teacher. Now let's look at 5 strategies for AI ready classroom. So if peradventure you're here and your classroom you've not been using AI, this is a call to action. You should have that embedded into your classroom. And if peradventure you've already started using AI, but there's some aspect that you think you need to improve, kudos, you're in the right place. Please include this as your strategy for an AI ready classroom. Now, we want a classroom that students will be able to think critically and ask better questions. We've already been able to highlight that. Very important. Critical thinking. So what are the things you're supposed to do? You need to teach prompt engineering. It's very important. How do people prompt? You need to have better prompts. So I'll give you an example. For instance, let's say I just asked a question in AI, what is chemistry? Right? If I do that, what I will get as my, or let's come down to what teachers will really want to ask. Let's say as a teacher, you're asking, help me write a lesson plan on chemistry. Now, if I ask that question, that's a prompt. But is it a good prompt? No, it's not. If another teacher puts on AI and say, help me write a lesson plan on chemistry for year 10, my class range is between year 10, let's say between 13 to 15 years. I have different kind of learners in my class, auditory, this, visual, and then you put that down. I teach in Abuja, Nigeria, and all that. You prompt it, and you even tell it that, oh, the class is for 40 minutes. Guess what? You would get a better output than that person that just say, help me to write lesson plan for chemistry. So you need to learn to prompt better. Now, design inquiry-based learning. You need to encourage, children, usually when they are born, they are these people that would like to ask questions. But I don't know, probably it's Africa or Nigerian culture. We always choose them up, and then as they grow, they begin to stay in their shell. So you need to be able to, as a teacher, encourage them to explore, to ask questions. They need to be curious, right? Curiosity is not killing any cat in your classroom. So you need to help them to come out of their shell, to be able to ask questions, to question AI, to be able to question you. When I was a teacher, And till date, anytime I have the opportunity to like train teachers or go to school, I always love it when people are able to bring out points to actually counter or speak to what I have said. It shows that you're actually very curious. You shouldn't just take everything I've said, garbage in, garbage. You need to question it. Why is it like this? Why is it not like this? And then we reason together to know that it is like. So if you have a student like that in your class, please don't discourage them. Encourage them. And if you have those who are not doing that, please encourage them to ask questions, to explore. Now, encourage critical thinking. I can't overemphasize that. You need to challenge AI. You need to challenge AI because it also lies. It's just garbage in, garbage out, right? So sometimes technology, there might be fluctuation, there might be issues with the code or something. So you need to be able to challenge AI. Use AI for feedback and reflection. This is very important. Support personalized learning with AI feedback. So you can ask AI for feedback. You can also foster what we call metacognition on how AI is used. You can practice. And one thing I also encourage is you can also diversify. There are different AI for different things, right? What, let's say, ChatGPT is better for, Gemini might not be so good around that. What Cloud is better for, maybe Canva AI might not be as good. So you need to be able to do that and also seek feedback. AI is very good with giving feedback. So you can design something. What I do most times is I could have an idea and then I fix it into AI and ask, what do you think? And AI will criticize. So that way I am critically thinking and getting better in whatever I am doing. So now let's talk about redesigning assessment process over product. I cannot overemphasize this. If you're here, because we've mentioned this previously, but if you're here and you're still just assessing the final product, you're very wrong. You need to change the way you assess your student because now in AI era, if you're just assessing the final product, you might just be assessing AI giving answers. You need to assess the process. We need to grade. We if we only grade the AI generated product, we teach students to outsource the thinking. Grading the human process is what protects your agency. So you have to just, if possible, take a screenshot of this and have it very handy. Now, grading only the product, you can see it's cancelled. That's not what we are doing in this new era. You're a new era teacher, so you should do better. You should grade the human process. You should reward draft, reasoning trail, revision history, not just the final answer. One final submission, no. Stage, what you need to do is you need to do checkpoints at stages, right? The outline, the draft. Also, recently I was among some reviewers for a hackathon for people who designed a product and they were asked to design with AI. And guess what? That was part of what we assessed. So you would walk us through how did you use AI? So what problem did you find? Where did AI assist you? If you're not able to articulate that, then you're not proceeding. So that's something that we should also encourage because these children will use it. If you don't encourage them or listen to them, then you might just miss it out. So ask them, okay, so you were doing this. What's the outline? What did you, when I gave you this assignment, what was your first thought? How did you now use AI? And then the child will be able to walk you through what they did before they got their final process. For you to silence the use of AI, it's very bad. So it should be disclosed, it should be cited. Very important. Student log where and how AI was used, just like you cite other sources. So you should be able to confidently build that confidence in your student to be able to say, okay, this part, I thought about this and I used AI for this part. Yes. Now, written answers only, no. Like I already mentioned, there should be oral defense, there should be reflection. You should learn from them. They should also learn from you, and everyone should learn using AI. Very important. We have overflogged this, and I'm very sure the second speaker would also hammer on this, right? When we bring it down to Nigerian context, you can see the numbers. 35% of Nigerian schools, they have what? Reliable internet. So just 35% means that we have a long way to go. And that's why we're having this beautiful conversation. We need to have more schools embracing AI, and they need access to the internet. And when we have our second speaker, I'm very sure he's going to do justice to this, and we're going to have questions. So when it's time for your question, please just pen them down and we're going to take it together. Also, about 53% national broadband penetration. That was what was cited in 2026. Design AI activity that survive patchy connectivity, not just the ideal condition. And there's also a data that is not here talking about how 86% of people are already adopting AI, right? It means that people really want this AI. People are really happy about this AI. So as a teacher, there's this saying that they usually mention. And when you're looking for ants, what do? Do you go chasing after ants? No, you bring what the ants want, which is usually something sweet like sugar. And when you pour it on the floor, what happens? Ants will come around you. And that's something about AI too. The love for AI is like everywhere. So as a teacher, you need to hold what they want and use it to ensure that learning actually take place. And here you can see talking about how candidates copy AI refusal message into the exam script, just like what I said. It shows the sign of low agency. It shows that teachers, we still have a lot of work to do to ensure that people don't just copy everything and just put it into, they don't just depend on AI, but think on what should be done, because AI can be wrong. AI can be wrong. And so that's something that we need to think about on how we are going to ensure that we move from a learner low agency to also a higher agency. And if we also want to look further, it brings us to talking about the Japa syndrome, right? Whereby people are also learning and then migrating. So I just want to open your mind to see the issues that are happening and how can we restructure Nigeria, because that's one thing I'm very passionate about. Teachers, you are the should I use the word backbone of the country, because you're holding the future generation is in your hand. You have that, you have them in your classroom. If we don't shape them properly, then the future is missed. So these are some of the questions we need to look at and see how do we solve this. This is just to open our mind. So let's look at, for instance, climate change, right? How do we want our students to become evaluators, not just copywriters? So you have a class, you want to teach climate change. You don't just want to be the one delivering the content. How do you ask an AI to assist? How do you ensure that there's like critical thinking? So now let's walk through this together. Ask and identify. Ask the AI for 3 solutions. So, what are the 3 solutions to climate change? Now, identify the weakest one. You should be able to work that with your classroom. Okay, what's the weakest one? Which one affects Nigeria more? Which one does not? What's the weakest one? Evaluate, explain why the solution is weakest using your own reasoning, right? So it has been able to give you so many things, but why is it weakest? Why is it the strongest in Nigerian context, in Abuja context, in Lagos context? Why? Improve, strengthen it using evidence. Student becomes evaluators, not just copywriters. With this now, students will be able to own it and say, okay, so during our class, we identified that climate change is caused by it's caused by dumping waste, it's caused by this. And then we're able to identify this as the weakest one because they'll be able to own it. So you don't just put everything and say, oh, AI, evaluate, improve, do this, do that. No, you should be able to think through it. Very important. Now let's talk about the responsible use of AI. When we started, I think someone dropped in the comments saying that she's scared. Oh, AI is coming, like the government is taking all our data and they are monitoring us, right? And that's what will bring us to the responsible use of AI. AI is powerful, and judgment remains human. But then there are like ways we can responsibly use AI, and uh, there are also should I say policies that also guide the use of AI, right? So one is ethical, bias awareness, privacy protection, fairness in AI output and decision making. Very important, and that's why anytime I have the opportunity to talk about AI, I always clamor that we need more persons from Africa who are also building AI so that all these biases will be able to be curtailed. Because if you're not building for yourself, then there'll be an issue. Even we get to talk about gender, male, female, and the rest. So we need more persons who are building AI for us and by us. Digital literacy too, very important. Fact checking AI responses, like I said. If you don't know it, you won't be able to query what AI is saying. So it's good that you also know it for yourself, right? Verify sources, check other papers, check other sources. Don't just rely on, oh, ChatGPT says this and that is it. Where is he getting it from? Go to Gemini, put the same prompt. Is it giving you the same answer? Ask why. Where are you getting it from? Click on the link, go and read the source. Verify. Very important. Human skill. AI cannot take that away from you. The empathetic, the creativity, communication skill, it cannot be replaced. So you should ensure that you use AI responsibly. Okay, so before we round up, I want one or two persons to volunteer and do this for me. With all what we've learned, imagine you teach maths, English, physics, chemistry, whatever. How could AI increase the learning agency in your class in one of your lessons? We've talked about learning agency, the low, the weak, the low and the high. So, how do you think AI can improve the learning agency in your classroom? So, I'll go back to that slide. So, I want someone to volunteer and just share with us in 2 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the teaching, our teacher. So of course the use of AI now is a lot. So of course to improve learners constructive process, because one thing I noticed that I've noticed a lot with us, like the African race or the black race now, is that whatever comes in from the Western world, we take it hook, line, and sinker. The same thing with the internet, the same thing with the media now. You see what is happening. So I think the first thing, just like this program has been designed for, is to kind of like sensitize people on the use of AI and what it means. If not, people would abuse it. Of course, I'm not really into teaching in the classroom or all of that. I don't teach in classes or classroom teaching, but I've taught in my early time, like when I graduated from the university, then I taught for some years or so, maybe 2 years or so. I left that space. So, but I still mingle with people, I interact with people from different parts of the world, based on what I do. So, in order to do this, yes, in order to do this, like our teacher has suggested, the I agency stuff, on how, for example, now prompting a particular AI, prompting like what I really want to learn or why I really came here for this meeting, was because of what I saw. And then that prompt engineering, like she highlighted in her slide, is something that I feel that really go a long way to help us, to really know how to use AI. I feel that the AI sector in itself has not really been used or maximized, you know. So to address a question now on how I can do this for, let's say I'm teaching now, I'm teaching mathematics, for example. Let's say I'm teaching biology or so. So how can I do this? How can I do this? So what I would do is that, you know, the first thing is that the said question, the particular question that I've been asked, or the particular problem that is to be solved, what I would do is that I would present it to the students, for example, and ask them to put it on AI and ask them to prompt AI themselves. So when they prompt AI themselves, what they've gotten, I will now check their prompt, like the process, like just like Shah suggested, the way they were able to prompt AI. So I can check that, oh, the way you prompt this AI on this particular question, it shows that you don't really understand the concept of what I'm teaching you. Let's say I'm teaching in chemistry now, or biology, or mathematics, or physics. Let's say I'm teaching on waves, for example. I'm teaching on waves. Of course, we know there are two types of waves. So I'm teaching on waves, and then I now ask all the students to kind of like prompt AI on the types of waves that we have, and then a student just put it on AI, give me types of waves and all that. So when the results are out, I will now check them or judge their result based on the way they were able to prompt AI. So that will now tell me that, oh, this guy really understand the concept. This guy really gets the concepts because of their prompting. So I would judge how they prompted the AI even more than the result they got. So that is my own perspective.
Hey, thank you so much for that, Mr. Joseph. So, like you pointed out, you need to evaluate and critique AI responses to design better and deeper prompts, and also ensure that you are able to apply it to real life situation. Very important. So these are key takeaway as we wrap up. We need to focus on thinking, very important. We need to also encourage curiosity. I can't emphasize that enough. Then keep teachers central. Teachers remain at the heart of learning as guide, coaches, and learning experience designer. Also, like I said previously, we need to redesign our assessment. Don't just focus on the final answer. Also, teach the responsible use of AI. Thank you so much for joining this. Yes, please, let's stay back, listen to our second speaker, and then if you have questions, I'll be right here to respond. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mrs. Blessing Iyare, for that insightful presentation. I mean, I learned a lot. I just, use AI based on, I just need quick answers, but this has opened my eyes more to the use of AI. And one point that stood out to me the most is the one you raised for our teachers, our educators, about changing the way that we assess students, not just assessing the final product, but assessing the thought process behind that final product, having checkpoints to assessing uh, the students' product. So we're going to build on these ideas as we welcome our next speaker. So our next speaker is Mr. Godwin Henry. He is a human capital and education policy professional. Is a development professional with over a decade in experience designing human capital and education reform initiatives across Africa, while he has served as process management lead on Nigeria's medium-term national development plan between the year 2021 and 2025, shaping national education sector priorities. He is an alumnus of the Mandela Washington Fellowship, while awesome, Chatham House Common Futures, British Council Future Leaders Connect, NESG Bridge Fellowship, and Teach for Nigeria. He is driven by the desire to democratize opportunities irrespective of socioeconomic background. Wow, this is awesome. So without further ado, I would be welcoming Mr. Godwin Henry, our second speaker, to take us through his session. Over to you, Mr. Godwin. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Shifao. I think at this point, a lot of pressure after that amazing presentation by Miss Blessing. It's like, okay, interesting. Thankfully, I'm no longer actively in the classroom because if I was in the classroom today, I don't know how it would be, particularly with the realities of learning that we are seeing today. I'm supposed to speak on Nigeria's AI transition, sovereign intelligence, and future for big English, similar to what Ms. Blessing shared. Very big English. Let's leave that. What I'll really speak on within the time that I have, we're looking at our national AI readiness, and we'll be looking at the economic case for homegrown AI infrastructure. Something I wanted to touch on briefly because I did not go in depth into it in the presentation is about the future of work. Whether you're talking of future of work or sometimes I always like to put it the now of work, the truth is that things are changing and things will continue to change all through the history of mankind and human beings. One thing that has been constant is change, right? So the way we work, would continue to evolve. In our forefathers, I want to believe you have forefathers in their generation. The tools they used to work is different from the tools that we are using to work today, and that would continue. The tools that we are using to work today will be different from the tools that we would use to work tomorrow. So there's a lot that has been written about the future of work, what that would likely look like, what are some of the things that we should expect. And the truth is, most of these are what you can call predictions. Some would come to pass, some will not come to pass. With AI now, there's in some places doomsday prophecy. In some places, there's welcome with open arms, which again showed from the old, I think the response to the question as the beginning. So that's just what I wanted to talk about briefly about the future of work before we go into our main conversation for today. Let's go in. Before we begin to talk about anything, just some numbers that we should have at the back of our mind. Let's say I shared some earlier when she was making a presentation, which I found really interesting. So what do we know about AI in Nigeria today? Well, from data that I saw online, I hope it's really the case, is that as at today, as at let's say the first quarter of 2026, AI adoption had grown from, let me shift this up. Okay. The adoption had grown from 8.7% to 10.1%. So we are seeing increase. At least that's what we are able to measure, because I know in this part of the world, very poor data culture. Let's not go into it, right? So that's the growth we've seen in 1 year. It's really significant, particularly if you then begin to disaggregate what that percentages mean in terms of real people. Because I always like to say, when we see numbers, right, let's not think about it in terms of numbers, especially when it has to do with human beings. Those are real human beings, me and you, behind those numbers. What we also know is that approximately 140 million Nigerians are projected to own a smartphone. I want to stay on this for some seconds, because why this is important is that we need to acknowledge that not every Nigerian has a laptop, but most Nigerians have a smartphone. And the way AI is currently being deployed, it's more user-friendly for those with laptop and desktops. If you look at the magnitude of work that AI on your current mobile device can handle, there's a bit of limitations, right? So if we begin to think around the numbers of people that have access to smartphones, and since we are mostly educators here, I'm going to share something. I'd shared this online a while back because I also heard it from school owners. Is today, when we are administering CBT exams, is optimized for laptop and desktop. The question is, how many learners today in our schools and classroom have access to laptops and desktop? Well, we know that a good portion of them have access to smartphones. And school owners asked the question in a forum that I was in, why are we not optimizing CBT exams to function in smartphones if we are complaining that a large number of learners, when they give them laptops, they don't know what to do, which contributes to the failure rates? Why don't we think of changing our approach? Well, that's not the subject of today, but it's really important when we begin to think around how we design and deploy and where we also channel our AI innovations to. We can't talk about AI without talking about Nigeria's digital economy. And today it is said, let me not say we are, it is said, so that you will not quote me. It is said that our economy is worth around $52 billion, and there is projection that we have potential to get to 120 billion, like doubling, more than double of what we are today, if we deploy AI the right way. Let's think about that. So continue. So if we look at Nigeria today, available data also says that it's only 10.1% of Nigeria's working age population that use generative AI in the first quarter of 2026. And it is said that it is below global average, which is 17.8%. And for those of us in the global south, there's also conversation. Why do we call it global south and global north? I'm not responsible for that classification, but we agree we are in the global south according to them. The global average for global south is 15.4%, and we are just at 10.1%. There's a lot of questions to ask here if you look at that number. Why is it just 10.1%? Remember, we talked about the future of work. If you follow Ms. Blessing's presentation around AI agency in classroom, what you are having today is a generation that did not grow with AI that is now expected to use AI. And as always, we fight change. And someone had said there are also people that believe that the government is using AI to spy on us. Well, jury is out on that. But again, if we have only 10.1% of working age Nigerians, we should ask questions. Let's leave that. If we look at basic education, which is our foundation of learning anywhere, as of today, this one, you can quote me anywhere. As of today, there is no rigorous national survey on AI literacy in Nigerian primary or secondary schools. None. Across the country, there's none that will tell you this is the state of AI in our primary schools or state of AI in our secondary schools. In the 36 states, let's even say regionally, in the zones, we don't have. Question is why? And we are deploying AI, right? Most teachers are unfamiliar with AI tools, and I'm not surprised. It's, after all, the same set of people that are not even using normal technology. I know the number of teachers that interacted with, particularly when I was in the classroom, that were teaching computer science, right? And you are not seeing the computer. Let's not even go far. I remember doing coding in school. I was coding on paper till I finished that course 1 year. I did not code on the computer system. So, and it's that same teachers that is expected. You know, like Ms. Blessing was speaking. I was just smiling. With those of us here, I'll say we are the fortunate ones, but it's the same teachers that don't even know basic computer literacy. They are the same ones that are supposed to infuse AI in the classroom. Are we really serious? Right? These are the realities we have on ground, but we also know that students are already studying with the aid of AI. Again, the first speaker mentioned about that. I think even the highest scoring student in UTME this year had even shared how she used AI to aid her study and some other high scoring students. So we already know. So we're already seeing the gaps, how fast students are moving and how fast teachers are moving. We have a national AI strategy. I don't know how many of us know that. But one thing I've seen is the problem is not that this strategy exists, it's the implementation. The Federal Ministry of Communication, Innovation and Digital Economy, they've done well. In fact, I think they gathered experts for about a week to start the process of putting together that strategy. The problem goes back to implementation. So when we begin to think around this, and if you also look at, as at today, it's only 0.2% 0.2% that is spent on research and development of AI. Let's look at some early signals that we're already having when it comes to developing our own sovereign intelligence, our own homegrown AI systems. We are seeing early signals from organizations like Iyare, CEDAW. I know those two. I saw this middle one, Epoch Zero. I hope I got the pronunciation right. If I did not, forgive me. But I know those two, particularly CEDAW and what they are doing with using Nigerian languages to train local AI models, develop AI models. So we're already seeing early signals, which means it's not all doom and gloom, right? There's a bit of hope somewhere. I don't know how long that hope would be, and it's not the political hope, please. It's hope. We're also seeing institutions like MT and Airtel who are deploying data centers that would ensure that we are able, like things that CEDAW and Iyare and others are doing, we'll begin to see them. And Equinix, which I like, they have this partnership that they have gone into with T Knowledge. Let's just move here. But again, the central point I wanted to point out is that we have early signals that it is indeed possible for us to achieve this. Like what we need is to have local data sets. As many of you would know, most of our languages are not documented in written form, which makes it hard to train AI models because you need written data sets to train. So we have organizations that are already working on doing that. Homegrown mod infrastructure as well. We are seeing that as well, and institutions. So I just wanted to highlight that we are seeing early signals. Question is, how long would that signal take? Something I was also asked to speak on, which I just quickly want to touch on, is there is enough motivation on why we need to take this serious. If you look at presently, we are told that we can have $22 billion potential GDP boost from broader AI adoption in 2035 if we begin to do the right things. 22 billion is not small money, and it's dollars. We've talked about the opportunity in our digital economy can more than double. We've also seen that in the last year, only 1.35% of global data center investment reached Africa, which means while that is going on, we also spent $850 million on offshore cloud and hosting. So you see, the money is not the problem, the way I look at it. If we can rechannel this money into homegrown solutions and ensuring that we execute most of these policies that we already have, like it's a no-brainer. The question now is, are we ready to do that? And who is even responsible? I think my major job in this presentation is to be asking questions. I did not come here to give you answers. Is to get us to think on the case for AI. I'm not sure if that is even right because AI does not need a case. It's already speaking for itself. Where I want to then move on to, just to touch on, because at the end of the day, we can't just speak in general. Let's bring it back to education, which is what concerns us. Quickly, what are the challenges we see today in integrating AI in Nigeria's education? We already know of infrastructure gaps. I'm not sure that is news. Many schools lack reliable electricity, internet, or hardware. Even in your houses, how many of us have 24/7 electricity, internet? Then we look at teacher preparedness. We've already talked about that. Curriculum, very big. Initially, which is what I said earlier, we're having people that we want to adopt AI who were not trained from the onset with AI mindset. So you see where the problem is. We well-resourced schools and students get the best. Like if you have money, the schools with money are using it to get the best, while others on your own. And at the moment, there's no deliberate policy yet on it. And we also have governance gap. As at today, I stand to be corrected. There's nobody, when I say body, institution, that is vetting AI tools for classroom use, that is looking at its cultural appropriateness, that is looking at data privacy issues, right? And if you even look at the way education, edtech tools are designed, I always say we design edtech tools, mostly the tech without the ed. You see, technology enthusiasts, because we can code, they code and build the tools without the teachers most times, without the school administrators, without the students. Even the only time they reach out to the students is when they are ready to deploy. Right. So we are seeing that, and even with AI is a bigger issue around who is really ascertaining that the tools that are being deployed for using classrooms are the right tools, is protecting students and learners, particularly young learners, right? And it's also appropriate culturally for us. Most time we always leave cultural nuance out of technology. Well, sorry to burst your bubble. Technology does not ignore cultural nuance. Well, I'm sure they'll soon tell me time up. So let me rush quickly. What then needs to change? Big question. As I was preparing, I saw an old acquaintance that shared a couple of thoughts, which I found really interesting, and I've borrowed it to use in this presentation. I'm not claiming 100% ownership of the thoughts. I borrowed it and added my own Maggi, onions, and pepper because it was appropriate. And one thing we need to then start to think about is when we are now thinking of AI, particularly in education in our classroom, we need to understand it from a human perspective to know how to respond and what strategies would work. That is the first thing that we need to accept. First, we are humans. So when we see tools, there's how we would respond. So we need to understand that. Particularly if we look at the fact that AI is moving at a very fast pace. If I give you a formula today, tomorrow it might become irrelevant. And my wife, sorry for those that are single, well, maybe I'm not sorry, is is doing working on a research on AI governance and shared some really interesting stuff with me. The EU, not quite long ago, developed its guide to AI, right? And countries are still trying to implement it. Guess what? That response is slowly becoming outdated, and countries have not even implemented it. So imagine they gave you a guide, with the knowledge they had then, they are trying to implement it. AI has moved far ahead of that particular guide. And do you now discard it? Which is why for me, I feel sometimes, which is where the human understanding comes in. It's not fixed. It's not waiting for us, right? So we need to ask some questions, which is what I've put here. Please don't get me wrong. This is not to discard what you were told in the initial session. It's just adding extra layer to it, because you might say, oh, this or guy have come and say whatever we're told before is not important. No, it's just, again, thinking as humans and asking questions, right? For us to know the appropriate, not right strategies, because I don't think at this moment, there's any right strategy that we can say we want to propose. It's just what is appropriate for this today, because tomorrow it might change. But for us to do that, questions we need to ask ourselves as educators and industry stakeholders is, what is AI even supposed to do for us? We really need to answer that question. So in your school, your academic institution, what is AI supposed to do for you? How is AI changing the way we all think, learn, trust, and relate to one another? Today on the web, and I do it too. I had to acknowledge the bias where there are certain writings that I see from people and I'll be like, it looks like AI. Why should I trust it? So we should begin to ask that question, right? How is AI changing the way we think, the way we learn, the way we trust and relate to one another? What happens when people are now steadily turning to AI for advice? We are seeing that. I do it too. I'm not coming here to live in a glass house and throw stone. I do it too. But what happens is questions we need to ask. Like I said, I came to ask questions. I did not come to give you answers, right? Companionship. We are seeing cases today where people are, in quotes, they have AI boyfriends and girlfriends and husbands and wives, partner, emotional support. There are people that are going, there was a case of someone, I can't remember if it was last year or last 2 years, that committed suicide because AI advised them, right, to do that. We can't run away from it. Now, let's take all this to our classroom. How are students, right? If I flip the questions, how are students using AI for advice? What happens when our students are turning to AI for companionship, for emotional support? How does that affect how we teach and I think the role of teacher has changed. How teachers facilitate learning. What happens, right? How is AI influencing our expectations of the people around us? Very important question we need to ask ourselves. So I also ask myself that question. How is it affecting my expectation? Again, like I said, I'm not using things that are far-fetched. I remember then, was it earlier last year? I was a big opponent that no, nobody should use it. You are outsourcing your thinking. But sooner or later, right, your eye begin to see the light. And then the last question I want to ask, what is the role of AI in the classroom? Goes back to my initial question. What is AI supposed to do for? What is the role? Right? When you have the answers to this question, it then influences how you design and respond to AI in your school and even for yourself. I know I'm out of time, so I'm going to jump to this slide. What can we begin to do? Well, I've asked some questions, but some things that we can begin to think of, right, is obviously investing in connectivity, devices, teacher training if you're a school now. We can't run away from it. Developing clear AI policy for use in our school and classroom. We can't run away from that, right? If you are running away from it, or my first speaker had shared some things you can do in your learning. Then you need to have a classroom. If schools like Oxford have AI policy, I'm not saying your school is not big, but we need to again redesign assessments. They've talked about that. I'll leave it. Pilot locally built. Well, beyond piloting, is we using it? There are local models. Question is, how many of us, myself inclusive, are using local models? Why are you not using it? Right? Big question for us. And if you're a developer here, it's also an opportunity for you to build products that are really useful for Nigerian environment. There's a huge market and opportunity out there. I know you tell me Nigerians will not pay. Are you sure Nigerians will not pay? I also like to flip. Nigerians will pay for something they believe in. And so with that, I will run and tell you thank you. And thank you for the extra time. I hope it was not too boring. Over to you, Shifa.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Godwin. I mean, you took your time to explain AI in a broader perspective because I mean all of the figures, all of the percentages that you mentioned, I had no idea about all of those things. All I knew was that people use AI. So I mean that was very, very insightful. And because of time, we are running out of time, we're going to quickly move to our interactive Q&A sessions. I know that I've been dropping it chat one or two times for us to drop our questions in the chat. So I am looking forward to questions that are going to be asked. I myself have a couple of questions that I have noted down for our speakers. So without further ado, I am going to start our Q&A session. And my first question is to Mrs. Blessing. I mean, this question is focused on teachers. I mean, teachers in, let me say, teaching institutions and all that, they were not trained to use AI, but now we have AI and we want to introduce AI to our classrooms. But how can the teachers ourselves, how can they easily adopt this AI in the classroom? Because we know some of our teachers are not adept in the use of AI, not to now talk of using it in the classroom. So how do we think that these teachers that are not adept to using AI can easily adopt it to now introduce it to their class?
So for that question, how can teachers who are not used to it now adopt? It will take me back to the beginning where we talked about how AI will replace people who do not want to use it. Now, I know back in the days, we used to have teachers who would be very proud to tell you, oh, I've been using this notebook to teach since 1986 till now. Now, knowledge is getting, should I use the word outdated? So you need to, as a teacher, it's the onus is on you to ensure that you continue learning so that you continuously remain relevant. It's very important. When I was a teacher, I know some schools support learning, right? And you hear that a lot from teachers. Some schools, they will say, okay, there's an amount that's for learning. If you want to go for training, they cover for it. As a teacher, please, if you're in that kind of school, take advantage of it. But if you're in a school that don't have that, don't wait for a school to push you to learn. Because if you don't learn, let me also bring an example. It's just like using typewriter. And now we're now using computer. Now we're now in AI. I could still remember when I was in school, there was this typewriting class or the shorthand that people learn. Right now, I don't think anybody learned typewriting. But then I'm very sure when you graduate and you become a secretary, you know how to use typewriting. You're like hot cake. So if peradventure then you were using typewriter and you say, oh, I'm not learning, they did not pay me, they are not giving me enough money, I'm not learning how to use computer, by now you will not have a job. So that's a call to action to every educator here. It is on you. If you want to be relevant, please, by all means, don't stop learning. Learn AI, use it, and you continue to remain relevant wherever you find yourself. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Blessing, for that wonderful answer. I also have another question for Ms. Blessing. And you mentioned something about assessing the students' work. Let me say, for example, a teacher has given students to write an essay on a specific topic. So, of course, we would have students that use AI. I mean, maybe literally start to finish, but some might be good at editing some telltale signs of AI. How do we think that teachers, in the midst of, you have 40 students, for example, you have 40 submissions, how can teachers identify that this essay is 100% AI? I mean, some people will just copy and paste and just remove the telltale signs that don't want my teacher to know that I used AI. How can this teacher be, how can they know that this essay was written by AI when they also have like loads of assessments or essays to go through?
Okay, so thank you so much for that. And it's very funny and dicey because you use AI to catch AI most times, right? So they're like AI tools that you can also use to catch people who use AI 100%. So I think as a teacher, you can leverage on that, especially talking about having a whole lot of work to do. that would actually help you to be able to fish out those who use like AI 100%. And also, if it's an assessment where you can also walk them, like they can walk you through how they got the answer, you can also be able to get them that way. Because some persons, they just submit, they don't even know what's in there. I have been in an office where someone came to submit projects and they're like, okay, explain, beautiful project. Can you walk us through? Like, how did you assess the students? How did you do this? How did you do that before the supervisor would grade? And he could not see anything, right? So it showed that either he used AI or he gave someone else to just do everything, and he had not gone through it. So if that's possible, I feel like teachers should embrace it a lot, whereby you have your students walk you through their process, even when verifying that they did not use AI. Did they actually do it by themselves? Because it's possible I don't use AI, but I gave someone else to do it for me. But if I'm able to walk through it, it means that at least I took the pain to understand the assessment or the assignment before turning it in. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Godwin, I have a question in the chat. So Victoria is asking, what do we have to say about AI having our personal information in terms of safety? Like, what does it speak to safety now, data-wise, because it is absorbing our data, our personal information?
The question, I was hoping you were not going to ask me. But before I go to the question, I also wanted to like contribute to the last question you asked,
Okay,
Blessing.
okay.
But when it comes to assessing AI or catching AI, it's a should already say it's quite dicey today because most times you use AI to catch AI, which even the AI that is catching AI might be wrong. And when I was preparing for this session, one of the things I did was register for another session where educators around the world were talking about AI in classroom. And one of the innovations I saw was teachers who had trained AI to mark mark and grade students, right? And they were sharing. I found it really, really interesting that particularly with heavy workload and large class size, so there's like limits to how you can have that one-on-one touch. And it's at the end of the day, for me, the way I see it is the best of answers today, even AI is flagging it. I've written things 100% from my brain, and I
Exactly.
just say out of curiosity, let me just see. And AI will tell me, you see, I'm like, I brought
Exactly,
this thing
yes.
from my brain, right? Like I wrote it myself. I did not even, so it gets flagged. So at the end of the day, is then asking ourselves, what is our main goal? And do we want to catch thieves or do we want a better system? Right? If you look at it, which goes back to what is our main purpose? What is even AI supposed
Yeah.
to do for us? It's something I'd wanted to share earlier in my presentation because I heard someone talk about prompt engineering, right? If you even look at what we know about prompt engineering today, tomorrow it might evolve. If you then sum it up, it goes back to getting learners at foundational level to be able to develop base capacity for thinking. That is all you need. Because if I saw this some weeks back, if you don't know what the right answer is supposed to be, whatever AI gives you will look right.
Okay.
And as those in the classroom, teachers in classroom would tell you, there are questions, there's how you frame question, and when a response is gotten, you can know that this person is just speaking plenty English without
Yeah.
substance. Why? Because there's no base thinking capacity, right? So for me, I say as educators, priorities at this point, I think is a waste of time trying to catch AI users. If you have not like it's waste of time. But if that is what you are focused on, you are focused on the wrong thing. Let me not
Yeah, I
continue speaking on
understand
that. Back
you.
to the question, AI and personal information. Remember I said initially EU developed standards. Um, the standard, I think it was last year. I need to ask my Oga, who is the expert in that field, when it comes to AI governance, safety, and human rights. She's the expert there. uh, but basically, there's no right or wrong answer. I think at the moment, the only thing you are told is just be mindful of the level of information, personal
Yes.
information that you are exposing to AI, right? Personally, I don't have my picture, except maybe someone else did it, but I've not used my hand to feed AI my own picture. I've not. Right? So there are people that don't have issue with it. So it's case by case basis. And then if you look at how safe or what is like, a lot of us don't read the terms and conditions of
Yes.
platforms that we use. Maybe it's time you start using it so that you see where is your data being shared to, where is it stored, right? What is happening to it? Are they selling it? If it's being sold, how is it being sold? Right? Those are how I would respond to it. There are definitely things you need to feed AI, which is why even some organizations don't allow certain documents. They have their policies that says you can feed this level of information, you can't feed this level of information.
Mm.
But personal information, I'll just say be wary. There are sensitive informations that should not be out there yet. Yet.
Yeah.
I think that's how I would answer. I can't tell you don't feed AI any of your information, but
Mm.
yeah, you shouldn't give it your health or your
Of
health
course.
data. Meet your doctor.
Using AI as a doctor, asking AI to prescribe medicines and all that, thank you so much, Mr. Godwin. I'd like to ask Ms. Blessing if she has anything to add to that.
So from my end on that question, I'm just looking at it and smiling. I feel he has done justice talking about data privacy. It's important. I will just re-emphasize that it's important we read the terms and conditions because most times we don't. I'm also very guilty. Like they're usually
Yes.
very long. So just there was okay. Let me give you an instance. There's this one. I don't know how many of you have noticed on Google, like your Gmail. There's this time that they
I
brought
just
one terms and
updated it.
condition stuff about AI, saying that it will now read your emails, and so you just see it. It just came up, and that day I decided that okay, let me read this thing before I accepted, and I saw that oh, what it's asking for was permission to read my email. Guess what?
Wow.
I didn't accept on my personal email. So I have this other email that I used to like play with. Like usually I opened long time ago that has all these 22 and the rest numbers that I don't use anymore. So I went there and I accepted it. And any email that comes into that particular email box, it will read it. It will tell me what it is. It will tell me. Sometimes I will just receive an alert saying you have this email for like 3 days. You've not responded. It will even give me a response, and I'm like, ah. So this is what AI. So we need to be very careful to actually read through those things and be sure where our data is being sent to and what it's being used for. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Blessing. So we have one last question and we are going to wrap up the entire session. So Umfang Emmanuel, sorry if I mispronounced your name, is asking, in a situation that a teacher gives an assignment and admonishes the student not to use AI, but to use textbook, what can be done to integrate that students from being dependent on AI, but using analytical skills to make use of the AI. So if I understand this question well, it's sort of stating that a teacher gives an assignment and has asked the student not to use AI, but to use the textbook instead. So what can we do to integrate that student from being dependent on AI? That is, if the student is going to use AI, how can we advise or encourage the students not to be dependent on AI, but to use, their critical thinking as well?
Okay, so I think for that it will start with the classroom. What kind of classroom are you building? Because when once the students are like confident in themselves, it will help them transfer that. Even when they are not in the classroom, they will be able to transfer that, and that trust will be there, right? So, and that's why I emphasized on critical thinking. As a teacher, are you building the critical thinking of your students? Are you allowing them to question what is being said and be able to just say anything that they feel like? Do you get like our teacher was saying, there are no wrong or right answers. So when you have that kind of mindset, a child is open to trying. And when they try, how do you encourage them? So it's possible that, okay, maybe I see that, oh, the day I tried with my head, they called me Olodo in class, and then I went and used AI and they were clapping for me, or somebody else in the class used AI and said he did not use, and they say everybody should clap for him. Now, what signal are you sending to that child? You're telling the child that, okay, it must be perfect, but that's not learning. Learning must not be perfect. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to be wrong. So I feel like if the teacher builds the class that way for them to note that it's okay to use your, like, to critically think, to be able to bring an answer that is not even in a textbook, but that's what you feel is right, and let me know, why do you think is right? And if it's because these textbooks, they're written by people, right? So I might have, except sometimes for science, it can be very hard to be able to agree that a concept is right until maybe you've done your observation and experiment and all that. But for other fields, I feel like a child can actually bring out concepts that might not necessarily be in a textbook. As a teacher, how do you accept that? Or do you just say, oh, it's not in the textbook, or this or that? So that way, if you can start training up, like the Bible says, sorry, I'm bringing the Bible in here, train up a child in the way he will grow. And when he's old, he will not depart. So if you train up that child the way he will grow in your class, even when he's at home, he will not depart from that pattern. So I think it's very important we emphasize critical thinking and we continue to encourage their creativity and just let them know that it's okay to fail so that they don't necessarily hold on to AI just to ensure they pass. So yeah.
Thank you so much for that wonderful answer. Mr. Godwin, if you can maybe take 30 seconds to give us your thought on this question.
My thoughts, 30 seconds. I'll just share a quick story when I was in the classroom. The question reminded me of something that happened. When I was in the classroom, then when I give tests, the children would always want to look at their notebook to steal the answers. And for me, when the first time I saw them do it, I smiled. They were like young adults at that age. And I had to go back to re-engineer the classroom, make them understand that I'm not giving you the test for you to fail. I want you to think the answer through, right? And what happened was, the more I did that and they saw that, something to add again, also let them know that I want you to attempt it. Irrespective of what you score in this test, at the end of the day, you will not fail when the final grade comes together. You might not score 100, but you won't fail. And I walked through that. It took me the whole term. The next term, things got better. But what then happened was, I remember going for a quiz competition that was organized at the local education district level. And it was essay questions. One of the questions that was asked was to ask the learners to define what is a waste. And a particular response from a learner was, waste is if in my house I eat banana and I have that banana body that remain and I throw that banana body in dustbin. That is waste. I think it was waste or waste disposal. Is that students right or wrong? That was a big debate. A lot of people teachers that were said, oh, that is not how to define it. I remembered my own kids in my classroom. I said, never. This child is correct. If you are not giving this child 10, you will give 6, 7, not even 5, because that child understands the application of this concept, which is what is most important. Has contextualized it for themselves using examples that they can relate with. So if you understand that, I'm sure you get the answer to the question.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we are come to the end of our webinar today. And as we conclude today, I would like to thank our speakers, Ms. Blessing, Mr. Godwin, and I would like to thank every participant for joining us today, Mr. James, Mr. Joseph, Ms. Lucy, Ms. Emmanuel. Thank you all so much on behalf of Wuraisgold Charity Foundation and Althaven. Thank you so much for being a part of today's discussion. Finally, Ms. Furaola, if you can just take 1 minute to give us a closing remark, we would appreciate that.
Thank you, Ms. Shafal. Well, the moderator has actually said it all by giving a fantastic closing remark, and I really don't know what is left for me to say. But really, this session was actually really very interesting and very impactful. So I recall that during the dry run, one of the concerns that Professor Godwin, yes, I'm calling him Professor from today, is not a prof. So one of the challenge that Professor Godwin actually had was that, his topic and the topic of the first speaker, how is there a nexus between these two? How then have we sure that, okay, there's going to be like a continuation, a correlation, or there? So it's really a concern that you raised. And they were like, okay, fine, just do your thing. We know you are capable. And there was a reason why our program team actually selected that. And come to think about it, the first speaker to mention things like Japa syndrome, what has been going on, and the rest. Honestly speaking, people have been chatting me on personal DM that they want more from both Miss Blessing, Iyare, and Professor Godwin. And I really don't know if they would oblige us by coming again, because this session is so interesting. Like, there are a whole lot of things going on in this AI thing. And what Miss Blessing was earlier saying about this AI reading emails. And then I just remember that, Jesus, I think something like that actually happened to my own email, and I did not accept. I just noticed that every now and then when emails come in, it just keeps popping up and saying, oh, the summary, you don't have to open this email. This is what the email is talking about. They sent it last week. Then it's now bring out a summary of what the email is talking about. So I don't even have to open it, and then it starts telling me. So now that Miss Blessing has said, I have to look for a way to deactivate it. So thank you so much, our wonderful speakers. Thank you, our esteemed participants. Thank you, our amiable moderator. Thank you, Althaven. Thank you for this great partnership, because we actually partnered to host this program together. Thank you to the team, the entire team of Althaven, Miss Lawal, Miss Victoria. Thank you so much to the team of the Wuraisgold Charity Foundation, everyone present on this call. Thank you so much for your support. And we've actually been putting in our social media handles on the chat box for us to follow. Sorry that I was smiling. Someone just commented that this is my face cap now. Wow. Please, if my face cap is obstructing you, let me know. Let me know. And if I tell you who said that, it's my mom. My mom just sent a message that said, this is your face cap now. Wow. You know how mothers can be. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for your time. We're definitely going to get back from you to you, and we'll definitely release out a survey so that we can know what areas that you want us to treat again, if it's the aspect of Professor Godwin or Miss Blessing Iyare, so that we can know how to convey everyone to come back. And I personally really learned a lot. And thank you so much, Madam Moderator, for doing a fantastic justice to this presentation and to this entire session. God bless us all. And please, before we go, we would like to take like a virtual photograph. So over to you, Madam Moderator, on that.
Thank you so much, everyone, for taking our time today. We really appreciate. Please enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye.
Bye.